space from practical aspect. For those people that are here, some people that have done project for their either their organization or their school before, they must have heard about that.
Oh, we lost you. I think we lost him. Let's just hang on a second. Okay, he's back. Okay, just logging back in.
Sorry, can you hear me? I'm back again.
We can hear you, yes.
Okay, I wish sure there's no attackers around, right? Because I have a couple of enemies, right, globally. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen once again, just quickly. Okay, can we see my screen now?
Yeah, sure, we can see your screen, yes.
Okay, so quickly, let's just quickly talk about this, and I'll take some questions. As I said, the 10 minutes can never be enough for what I want to do. So basically, as I mentioned, right, I've been in cyberspace for quite a while, right, from implementing across different OEMs, right, across different, continents.
Your audio can barely hear you. It's actually muffled.
Okay, is it clear now?
It's clear now, yes, yes.
Okay. I think there's some connection issue and all that. I wouldn't know where that's coming from. So as I was saying that I've been in the space for quite a while, right? I can share this deck for my details and information and all that. Now, just for you to know clearly, over the last 7 years, I have helped different organizations to sort of come into when attacks happen, right? And when attacks happen, attack mostly happen, web and server attacks, basically. We all know OSI layer, right? Every organization does not have the understanding of how to protect from layer 3, which is the routing layer, up to layer 6, right? Which is the application layer, right? And every time that you have database, you copy open source codes, right? Across different platforms, you create yourself open. As you can see, different layer I have on the screen. Custom applications, right? You buy a custom application. Business logic was not defined by you, was defined by the application, vendor, right? And you did not tweak or customize that for that yourself. And you just bring the application within your organization and install and set up, right? Vulnerabilities can be within the application. And sometimes the vendor can leave the loophole inside the application, right? I'm not going to say some things, right? So that I don't get scared. There are a couple of organizations in the US that I work for, and they are popular known cyber company or companies that make ERP softwares. And they hire some of us. What we do is when they sell the software to you, we create some bots within the application for 3 reasons. We use those bots to collect information from your company when we need to. We use those bots to collect metrics from your servers or your application or platforms when we need to. And then we use those as well, sort of to let them know in case they need to, know the extent of the application and impact of it across different organizations, right? So when you buy application, you might as well want to get security guys to check those applications before you start installing them, right? Third-party application issues, web servers, right? Apache IIS, we all heard about Log4j, right? Log4j is everywhere, basically. And those are vulnerabilities that you have within application. And then, of course, application, a lot of people leverage on open source, right? And when you leverage on open source, and you don't have understanding of how to use open source library securely, right? Or maybe you're not using SDLC, or you're not even checking the code, source code, scanning or DAST or SAST, right? That becomes a big issue as well. The operating system nowadays, it's the big, Windows is one of the biggest area that has the biggest attack surface, right? And then network, gone are the days where we're going to have DMZ, we have a front firewall, and then we have the next thing as the internal network. It does not work like that anymore. We now have what we call the software-defined networks. And that network goes by what we call hub and spoke architecture. And that can be a multi-layer, right? With different defense mechanisms, right? So having routers just in front of your network is like a child's play, I tell you. And I'm not talking just from what I've seen in the books. There are several organizations that have done multi-attacks for, right? And they have different, routers, even routers within MPLS networks. But I'm not going to bore you with a lot of technical jargons and all that. But I'm just trying to say here is when you talk about cyber attacks, when it comes to web and cyber layers, there are different components, aspects that can pose a vulnerability with different attack surfaces, right? That's what I'm mentioning here. So basically, I'm going to peg in quickly into, there's something I wanted to show. Okay, maybe later. So let's just quickly look at some of those attacks because I know that I just have 10 minutes. So we read about cross-site scripting. Now, forget what is on the screen right now. Anytime you go to a website and you find out that a website, so website basically when they load, the pages are refreshed within a particular, minutes or, or seconds. They are refreshed in 5 seconds or 10 seconds. Any website that you see that is refreshing every 2 seconds, there's possibility that is a code embedded on that page. So cross-site scripting basically is maliciously you embed a particular source code on a web page and you allow that web page to behave in a particular way that could infect a viewer or user accessing the website, basically. So if I log on to the website, my browser can actually pick some malicious code from the website. Or I log on to a bank website and that bank website can introduce, right, a malicious code into my browser. Now, cross-site scripting and cross-site scripting request forgery, they're almost the same thing. The difference is just that cross-site scripting, the code is running from the server side. Cross-site scripting request forgery, the code is running at the client side. Just for you to understand, they're both the same thing. But I always say this, right? The best way, right, to capture cross-site request forgery, I don't know if you have used this tool before. I'm going to share my browser shortly because, sorry, I cannot do this without just not showing something on the screen. Can you see my screen? Can you see my browser?
Yes.
Thank you. Now, there's the tool here on my browser called Disconnect, right? Now, Disconnect most times, whenever you load a website, the moment you load the website, Disconnect will begin to tell you, right, different sources that are connecting to your website that is taking data. And you can decide to shut them down one after the other, right? Now, Disconnect sometimes, the premium version can actually give you an idea if a cross-site scripting or cross-site request forgery is happening through your browser based on the website you're connecting to. It's a tool that you can download, it's free, but there's a premium version of it. Maybe subsequent edition when I come around here, we can actually play around how these work, right? But one of the tools that I've seen for browser, Edge, Chrome, Explorer, is actually always Disconnect. There are other tools out there, but this works very well as well, okay? But I can take question on that later on. Now, so talk about cross-site scripting, cross-site request forgery, URL interpretation. I use this often sometimes as well, right? So URL interpretation basically just that you write your URL and you put some code attached to it. When I'm doing SQL injection, my best SQL injection is in my URL, I'll put the SQL code within the URL. When I load the website, instead for the website to connect just the browser and load the page, it will also load the database connectivity object for me on the page, right? So URL interpretation basically is you obfuscate your URL, add malicious code to your URL, and you load that URL to give you a back-end component as well, right? So that's what we call URL poisoning, basically, right? And often, mostly ethical hackers use this URL poisoning as well. But mostly what I wanted to mention is if you go to a website, right? Because that's the best way. If you go to a website and when you are loading the website, you find out that when you move your cursor over the website, just a moment. Let me show you what I'm saying. This is Zoom, for instance, right? Now, if you come to this place, of course, you know this is the certificate of the website. Now, in the certificate of the website, yeah, they say connection is secured and all that, right? Just a moment.
You need to share that. What we're seeing is your PowerPoint. We're not seeing the browser.
Oh, okay. Did you see the website, my browser for disconnect earlier?
No, it's actually the PowerPoint that is available.
Oh, well, sorry for that. Sorry, I'm an hacker, so I try to control what I share, right? So please forgive me for that, basically. Okay, so I thought I saw that. Just a moment. I'm going to reshare again. Okay. Can we see my screen now?
Yeah, now, yes.
Fantastic. So let me go back to disconnect. This is disconnect, please. I want to be sure that everyone can. So this is disconnect. Some of us must have been using disconnect before, basically. So disconnect for me, it depends on the way it's being configured and all that, right? Just a moment. I'm having some screen delay here. Okay, so can we see this page? So this is disconnect. And I was talking about before that the fastest way to detect browser, right? Or disconnect from any source that you see that there's a cross-site scripting or cross-site request forgery is disconnect, right? You can use disconnect. This works faster. There are other tools as well, but you can make use of it. This is what I was trying to show earlier on. Now, this time around, I'm talking about the URL, you know, URL modification or URL poisoning. We call it different names, basically. There are, when you connect to the website, first thing you can do is go to this pattern log, right? And in this pattern log, go to cookies. Now, in the cookies, so different sources that are storing cookies on your system. Within these cookies, if there's going to be any URL poisoning, the cookies are always, the poisoning codes are always within the cookies. I just have to explain that to you. The fastest way to get URL poisoning out of your system is just to clear your cache. That's all. Simple. You clear your cache, right? Clear your cache, reboot your browser, or if you are feeling still concerned, all you need to do is just to right-click and go to incognito mode, right? Because incognito mode, new session is not going to have all those components within it. Okay? So you can see, so you can use any of those basically, right? Because of time, I'll not be able to do much of that, but definitely if there are questions I can address through that. There DNS spoofing, right? Which is another aspect of web server attacks you have to be careful about. We have had major work of DNS is to do recursion, right? You send your url.something.com, right? And when you send that in, it's to convert it to IP address and help you to be able to locate that particular resource on the web. That's the job of DNS. The moment you find out a DNS server is doing recursion, a double recursion to another server, which is called command and control, then there's a DNS spoofing. Or you have a DNS server that is actually pegging you to another DNS server, or when it does recursion, it returns back some query after recursion, and those queries can affect your own system or server. There's a DNS spoofing, right? And it comes in different types, okay? There's a DNS hijacking where you have a man in the middle attack, right? That when you're trying to do a recursion to a DNS server, they stay in the middle and they'll capture that query, replay that query maliciously, and then by the time your DNS is returning back to you, it's going to return back details of a command and control. What is a command and control? A command and control is what we use for botnets, right? We must have heard about botnet, where we have a series of zombie servers, and those zombie servers can actually, you know, carry out the cyber attacks as if they are normal servers, right? So command and control is the main base for those botnets, you know, zombie servers, basically. And so anytime you see a command and control in place, definitely you know that a particular attacks and there's a series of attacks happening at the same time, right? Just a moment here. Can you still see my slide, or
I'm seeing your browser, not your slide. The browser.
Okay, yeah. I think I have some delay basically, right? So I'm just going to reshare that. Just a moment. Just a moment.
And your time is running out.
I know. I'm just going to switch into taking questions and all that, right? Okay, so I've just talked about this, and I put some of the countermeasures for some of those components here. So I'm not going to talk about that. So you can have access into that basically, right? SQL injection is not something new to everyone, right? So I'm not going to talk deep into this. So SQL injection basically just passing some codes to be able to have access to the DB objects and then be able to query some, table component and all that out maliciously. And you can do it from the web end, basically, right? It's some I like it more in demonstration that talking about it basically. So so drive-by attack, as I said, right, is just how does it happen? If you go to a website and you're downloading, a lot of people download. When you download things, you can download malicious codes. So when you're going through websites and you see a freeware or free data and you download, those freeware can contain ransomware, right? And that becomes sort of, attack, mechanism or vector into your system. DDoS. DDoS is something that we've heard about several times, right? DDoS basically is when you deny a web server to respond in a way it should to a legitimate user because you've overwhelmed it with, sync floods, all right? That becomes a DDoS. DDoS, whenever you see a website being down or you have a buffer overload for a website, then that is a DDoS attack in place, right? And every point in time, if you must protect against DDoS attacks, all you have to do is to ensure you have a good next generation firewall in place or unified threat mode, unified UTM solution in place, right? So those UTM solution, what they do is they have component for DDoS. So you can configure those sort of protect against DDoS. Now, all these type of attacks, they are attacks basically that can relate to a web application, to a website, and also to server as well, right? In terms of attack, okay? So I've talked about 6 of those major attacks. And the last one I'm going to talk about before I go is crypto miners, right?
In one minute,
yeah, I know.
1 minute.
Yeah, that's why I see that. I'm just rushing through all of this. So crypto miner basically is just that attackers are using your phone or your laptop to mine crypto, basically. It's as simple as that. Anytime that you see your laptop being hot, always hot all the time, right? Or your phone is very hot, maybe they're mining, they're using your laptop or your phone to mine immediately, right? And so what do you do whenever they're using your phone to mine? It's pretty very simple. I'm not going to talk about it in detail. All you need to do basically is we have what we call plugins. We call them crypto blockers plugins. I can send those, I think there are 6 or 7 of them. I can send them to you, you can install them on your phone, right? What they do is they disconnect every connection that comes to your phone, right? Either from a botnet or from a zombie server, they can disconnect all of those basically. So I've talked about some of these web and server attacks, right? We're just in the talking mode. Definitely there are questions. I can take some of those questions and then I can do some breakdown if you want me to break down some couple of things basically, right? Over to you. The fastest.
Right, thank you so far. thank you very much. Well, I understand the time is not enough for each one of you, but you just need to help us manage the time as well.
Yeah, sure.
I'm just hope I'm going to be able to manage my professors in the house this afternoon because those guys are loaded as well. So all my props. Anyway, so please, we need your slides. You're going to give us the slide and also give us all of the tools that you mentioned, maybe the links to those tools, so that people can actually download those tools and be able to play with them in their offices and all that. So I appreciate if you can do that. Basically, maybe send it to me by email or drop it on the chat, whichever one, so that people can actually have those links to those tools and be able to download them. And also, we need your slide as well. So, Mr. Larry, just hold on, because we're going to go into Q&A later on. When all the speakers have done, then we're going to Q&A. I know people have a lot of questions to ask. We're going to take those questions during that session as well. So I want to say thank you for that presentation. Just be on the standby and just wait for the Q&A session as well. Thank you so very much. Mr. Gross, are you here? Gross, are you here?
Yes, I'm here. So thank you very much once again, Mr. Larry, for that wonderful presentation. Quickly now, we're now moving on to another speaker for today. Let me say, one of the leading professor of cybersecurity in Nigeria. She's our own all the way from Ogun State here. And now we'll be introducing Professor Adebukola Onoshoga. She's a professor of computer science and information security, Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta. The presentation, what she'll be speaking about, it's cut across phishing attacks, including spear phishing, whale phishing, generally talking about.
Unmuted.
Okay, please go ahead, ma'am. You have 10 minutes or less, ma'am.
Okay, no, can you please finish your, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, go ahead,
ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much. And good afternoon to everybody. I want to acknowledge the presence of the president of NIPSI and the president of Nigerian Computer Society. Well, I you're not going to talk about phishing at all. We just get presentations to I didn't know it's going to extend till this time. So I didn't come with my system, and I didn't remember to even drop it in the job box. So just permit me to do a verbal presentation. Now we are on phishing. Well, Mr. Larry Macaulay had introduced us to cyber attacks generally, talking about web servers and the rest. Now, when you talk about phishing, you're actually looking at an attack methodology that is open to people and in a way of deception, okay, whereby it makes a person to carry out an action that is against their interest, okay, and attacks are very common, most especially in the last 2 years, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. Maybe most likely, maybe because there was a lockdown, people are at home, most times on the system, on their devices, and so many messages you want to view, and unconsciously you come across some links, and those people that are not knowledgeable, that aware, they don't really know about phishing attack, they get into it and become victims. Okay. One thing about phishing attacks, you have different types though. Okay. One thing you must know is like it's a deception. Okay. A methodology that has some deception. And there are different types, there are various types of phishing attacks. Number one, the one that is very common is the email phishing. Okay, the email phishing is when the attacker, okay, launches fraudulent emails. Okay, you send emails, okay, mails to several addresses in the bid to at least to have some larger percentage that will fall victim. And what does that? How is it carried out? One is the email will impersonate either a known company, a brand name, or a known person. Okay, and in that email you will have some links. Okay. Some links, as soon as you click on that link, you'll be directed to maybe a fish site, okay? And what makes it possible is social engineering, okay? Social engineering, they use social engineering tactics. What do I mean by social engineering tactics? That's something that you are known with, you are known for, something just like, for example, I have on my presentation slide, a Twitter account, okay, for someone that has a Twitter account. There could be a fish site, okay, that been created all in the name of capturing information, okay. So let's assume there is a fish account, a Twitter page, okay. As soon as you enter, you key in your password or your username, then you find yourself into another website. And as soon as you are given access, then all your information will be captured, which will maybe used to access all other accounts, because that is personal to you. Most people, what they use same password into different accounts, which is risky, okay? Then you also have there's what we call what's it called? Phishing. Okay, phishing, that's voice phishing. Okay, voice. People may call, and most times on financial institution, they claim to be from financial institution, representing a financial institution, asking you for, and if you're not very careful, you will just fall victim, because during the interaction, they'll start asking you for some, still on social engineering, okay? They'll start asking you for some information, will be about your card. We should all be used to that. And also there is smishing. Smishing is SMS, okay? SMS phishing, whereby you get some text messages, and through the text messages, you have some URL, because URL links. You have the URL phishing too, but you could be directed. There could be a URL, a fish site with the URL. Then on clicking, you find yourself in another site that is vulnerable. Okay. Then you also have whaling. Whaling, well, that's like a CEO attack. Okay, that's when you target the CEOs of companies, senior executives of companies within an organization. And also we have several types of these phishing. But how do you know? You see, very recently now, I think we came across, it was a bit viral, this Tinubu giving out some cash to people that you can register and then get part of the opportunity, like using it like trying to attract people, okay, to accessing to the funds through that fish URL. And what they use is the Bitly link. And these days, what scammers do, they use shortened URL, okay, shortened form of URL. Bitly, fine, it is legitimate, but they hide under such. Just like we use Bitly to access to register this for this conference, for this seminar. That's what we use. Scammers also using that platform, okay, using some short links that you may not be easily done with those days, where you have to check on the domain name, the domain structure, okay? You have to check on if this one is well known. When you see an email address, the last, for example, my university, the last part of the URL is funab.edu.ng, which is known to be academic institution, okay? And you have to check when you see at funab.edu.ng, you know that the last part is known and is legitimate. But these days now, they use shortened form of URL. And if you are not very careful, if you are not sensitive, you'll just find yourself in another website. And also, I think I've talked about the, okay, I've not talked about the sphere, okay, I've talked about the sphere phishing. Then also you have the HTTP, that's the hypertext transfer protocol, okay? How does that happen? Is you now being directed through a URL, okay, to visit a site, and that site is a replication of the legitimate site. But how do you identify such? One, you look at the setting, the general orientation of that site, okay, will give you, so one has to be very conscious for you to be able to, for you not to be able to fall victims of such sites. That's talking about the clone phishing. The website is cloned, okay? Several of that. And also, one thing I must also let us understand is the phishing attack is becoming more, is like the second on the list of emerging cyber attacks, okay? And phishers, what they do is they leverage more on social engineering and other public information, sources of public information, okay, to collect information about your work and other stuff like that. But one thing you must understand is, as an individual that cannot, you cannot just stop being in the cyberspace. We are all in it. We don't have any choice. Okay, you have to be very conscious. Okay, you have to be conscious of what you post. Okay, the information about you, about your family, because they use this information. Where you even have your information, there are several times that I've even got calls. Well, not as many as some people though, but I've received calls asking me about. But immediately you know about if this one is legitimate or not legitimate, okay? And there are other activities that attackers, they are becoming more sophisticated and by the day, and the tools they are using too, they're getting more sophisticated. I think that's what I have for now.
Wow. Thank you so much, Professor Noshoga. I mean, if we allow you to go on, you just keep going on and on and on and on. Thank you for managing the time for us. You talked a lot about phishing. I mean, one of the key things that you mentioned about the fact that we need to be very cautious. We need to be conscious of what we do online. We need to be conscious of what we do with our phones and all of that. So there's a personal responsibility for each person, to be able to, apart from being an IT professional, each person needs to be personally responsible to protect him or herself in regards to some of these attacks by doing the right thing. Just before we proceed, thankfully enough, the president of NCS is in the house now. So ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome the president of Nigerian Computer Society, the first professor of information security in Nigeria, Professor Shodia. You're welcome, sir. The floor is yours. The floor is yours, sir. We need to hear from you, your chief host and keynote address, basically. We were waiting for you earlier on. So you're welcome, sir.
Thank you so much, my wonderful brother, Engineer Ogeshuku, for the job you are doing for standing by NIPICS since we had the new president. I know you worked so well with the former president of NIPICS, Mr. Moshola, and you are not relenting on your efforts. You still continue to support this current national executive. We want to thank you for this support.
Thank you, sir.
The president of NIPICS, Dr. Olorun Yomi, other members of the National School of NIPICS, members of Nigerian Computer Society that are attending this program, all our participants, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is a wonderful opportunity for me once again to be part of another series of webinar that NIPICS is organizing. I'm indeed very pleased that this giant stride that NIPICS has taken to continue to educate us, to continue to provide the needed knowledge in the area of IT. We appreciate NIPICS for this. This is actually complementing the effort, our efforts at the level of national of Nigerian Computer Society. Of course, that is why we have interest groups. Interest groups are actually supposed to continue to provide necessary support. They are supposed to be complementing our efforts. National Executive Council of Nigerian Computer Society, NIPICS, Dr. Loyori, for this wonderful work he's doing. We will continue to support him. We will continue to support this current the man has shown commitment even before he became the president of NIPICS. He has shown commitment to IT for this, and will continue to support and thank my brother that for quite some time now, this event, Mr. Larry Macaulay. I've not seen him for quite some while, for quite a while now. He was really supporting when I was the president of ITSSP. But since I've become the president of NCS, I've not heard from him. I know Mr. Macaulay will continue our discussion after this program, but we want to appreciate you for coming again, you know, to do what you know how to do best. You know, he's one of the best hands that we have in information security and cyber security in Nigeria. And no wonder that NIPICS also got in touch with him. And the truth is that anytime, all the times we have been getting in touch with Mr. Larry Macaulay, he has never disappointed us at any point in time. Even when he was busy, he would make himself available to the programs and activities of Nigerian Computer Society. Mr. Macaulay, we appreciate you. We thank you for this support, and we want this support to continue for NIPICS. On the topic of today is indeed something that is new. Of course, we'll continue to battle with cyber criminals. We'll continue to battle with cyber attackers. More and more people will continue to fall victims not because those people are non-knowledgeable, but the truth is that these cyber criminals, they also continue to develop their strategies. They also continue to study the situation, study the IT ecosystem, they study the environment, and they will continue to evolve new approaches. I just want to cyber security professionals that we should not go to sleep. These people, they will continue to remain and will continue to develop strategies, program to mitigate cyber attacks in our country and all over the world. And that is why this kind of program is good, it's important, so that we'll continue to educate ourselves, both IT professionals and non-IT professionals. Because the people that are falling victim of cyber attacks, all of them are not IT professionals. In fact, majority of them are non-IT professionals. So we should take the message, even outside the IT profession, and get everybody that has anything to do with the digital platform to have the needed information that they need to know in order to protect themselves from all forms of cyber attacks. And that is why this topic is really very important, and is apt and very important. And it's one of the things we need at this time. On that note again, I want to appreciate and thank NIPICS, led by the current president, Dr. Loyori. And of course, we continue to provide our support at the level of the National Executive Council. And we'll continue to do what we need to do to make NIPIX one of the vibrant interest groups in Nigerian computer society. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity that you are giving to me to speak to all of you. And I want to wish all the participants enjoyable and fulfilling time. Whatever we gain from this webinar, we should continue to work with it so that our knowledge about cybersecurity, our knowledge about cyber attack will be better, will be more. We'll continue to, in all the environments that we find ourselves, we should continue to promote the culture of protecting IT-based infrastructure. I thank you once again for this wonderful opportunity. And I want to thank the moderators. I want to thank all the executive members of NIPIX for the opportunity they have given to the president of NCS to speak with this gathering. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much, the National President of Nigerian Computer Society, Professor Adeshina Simon Shodia, for being part of us this afternoon. We are now moving on quickly to another speaker, and that is, as you know, today we have showcased, let me say, the #1 professors of cybersecurity that we have in Nigeria, and that's why I also like to introduce, I used to refer to him as the youngest professor of computing in Nigeria at the moment, somebody that came from Beta by Far University, and that is Professor Rashid Gbenga Jimoh, who will also be talking to us in the next 10 minutes about network attacks, including man-in-the-middle attacks, machine-in-the-middle, session hijacking. I promise you, participants, this program is going to end even before 4 o'clock. So we have 2 more presentations for the next 10 minutes. Then thereafter, the remaining ones are just purely interactive session. So just once you're having any network issue, please, you can log out and reconnect. So let's now give attention to Professor Rashid Jimoh from Beta by Far University, and that is University of Ilorin. Professor Jimoh, you have attention for the next 10 minutes.
You need to unmute. You need to unmute. Prof, you need to unmute.
Okay, sorry. I'm on mute. It's unmuted. It's not muted.
You're okay now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I said I want to stand on the established protocol because of time, because I think every speaker must work with the time. And 10 minutes is a lot of time for this kind of presentation, but God on our side, we are going to do our best. So I want to also join the NCS president in appreciating Mr. Larry Macaulay, who I introduced to this profession as a guru in the area of cybersecurity. And ever since that, I think Mr. Macaulay has done us proud as a proud alumnus of University of Ilorin, the Beta by Far University. You're welcome once again, and we keep on calling and calling you. Having said this, when the topic was given to me, I narrowed down to a particular area, which irrespective of the attack, either inside, outside, a machine between, middle mine attack, it's the same thing. And attack is attack. And what is our interest? Our interest is we want to mitigate against this kind of attack. So I call the topic as a effective information security management roadmap for mitigating emerging cybersecurity attack. I think some of us who are technical, I think Mr. Macaulay has said a lot about different forms of attacks, and Professor Onosoga also alluded to quite a number of them. But there's particular something missing. Majority of Nigerians have not realized that we are living in a practically new era. Okay? And we need particular culture that will suffice for a secure habitat in that particular era. And I think that's the major problem. Our perspective of information is still the same as compared to the pre-digital era. So, and we are now in digital era. So I think, come to think about it, information security management will make any security arrangement that we put in place to work. It won't work. The technical arrangement will not work without this information security management. What is our perception of information? How do we see information? Do we see information as a mere information? Okay, and I can go on. I'm not going to go through this slide for my presentation because practically it's more than 10 minutes. We can see information is viewed as a valuable asset. It's now more of assets, unlike the pre-digital era. In the digital era, information is seen as asset and should be perceived and should be treated as such. I think that's the starting point. It's a valuable asset, it's a resource that must be protected against harmful attack from inside as well as outside. So organizations should realize this. Then information security can now be conceptualized as a protection of such important assets. Okay? The major component in information security or cyber security is information. And until that component is well conceptualized, in particular to the era we are living in, we'll continue to have quite a number of problems because so many people don't know that information is as good as the money they keep in bank. Okay? The coming of the internet give us opportunity for resource sharing. Okay? We have expanded network, and that is the beginning of these challenges. Okay? And we are now saying, you see, the use of ICT, are we going to drop it? Of course, no, that is not the issue. Dropping ICT will make us to be crawling when the whole world is moving at a very fast pace. We're not going to drop ICT. We want to cope with the usage of ICT. We want to expand the network. And that is why the Internet of Things, Internet of Everything, that's why we have machine committing crime. Before, machine cannot commit crime. But now we are talking of device-to-device communication. We are talking of building-to-vehicle communication. We are talking of all forms of communication. So it's not only email when we are talking of cybercrime. We want this network to keep growing. So what are we going to do? So we can see, I created a scenario here. A scenario of different size of padlock and different color and different arrangement. It is the asset, the type of asset that will determine the kind of padlocks I'm going to use. I think during our last seminar, I told us that we are no longer using our perception of doors and windows should change. And I think Mr. Macaulay mentioned this. When you're talking of software injection, you're talking of all this cross-scripting interjection and whatever, you are talking of windows that you cannot see, invisible windows, okay? And we need to let people know that you don't use window, don't pay for window again. You need to spend on these invisible windows. Because why we have problem is that investment on security, on cyber security, is there's no return on investment. So the fact that there's no return investment, we have challenges. People are not really conscious of that investment. But by the time they know that that's where their window is, they will start spending on physical windows and doors, and the investment will be on it. So we need this general knowledge of what it entails. Evolution of attacks, either machine middleman attack, okay, insider attack, outsider attack. Evolution of attack is as early as pre-invention of ICT. So the level of attack will determine the kind, and that is why, please, all this one is just giving us a scenario of the kind of network of today, which keeps growing, which will continue to grow, which is the sources of the challenges of cyber attacks. Of course, as much as the network keeps growing, then the challenges will be there. And that is why my brother, my students, Macaulay is making more money, because the challenges will keep going. So, and it's an opportunity for all of us in this area. So cyber crime, I don't need to be decided. What is cyber crime? Any crime that is a digital crime you commit using computer or devices, they have mentioned all this one. our perception of information security, there's no difference between information security and cyber security. It's only the context. In government, we use cyber security. In health organization, they use information security. So it's the same thing. Our conceptualization of this concept will go a long way in assisting us preparing for the danger out there, the cyber attack. So it's not only for your information to be stolen. Even if somebody who is not supposed to access it, it's a cyber security issue and should be. If it's unnecessarily disclosed, if it's modified, if it's disrupted, if it's perused without your authority, if it's inspected, if it's recorded, all this one we should know, because people do this ignorantly, okay? They give information, volunteer information, because our perception of information, we are not perceiving information as somebody living in a digital era. So those are those things. So cyber crimes can come from all of these angles.
Ya gona ma Umar bai jima da zama professor a cyber security. Rashid Jimon na. Ne kawo dan wannan din.
Natural, it can be natural disaster, it can be malicious attack, internal attack, malfunction, or unintentional human error can. So we have scenarios. I painted quite a number of scenarios here. So I am more interested in other part of the slide, which I'm going to also go into, okay? It is not all about technology, that's where we're going. The information will be protected if everyone with access knows what is allowed and what is not, and who is responsible for every piece of information or for every piece of equipment. This is achieved by defining clear rules, usually in the form of policies and procedures. That takes us to national policies and procedures, because the technology will work if the policies and procedures create enabling environment for that technology too. That is why you see many organizations, they have all these tools, okay? But the policy of that organization does not allow for even efficient usage of these facilities. And that is most of the problem we do have. No return on investment, I've said this. This is a scenario. Somebody that is not connected to you is having access to what you are doing. We have different kind of vulnerabilities. Do we even study vulnerabilities? And that is what Mr. Larry Macaulay tried to say. Do we even care whether somebody is even attempting? Because if we don't care, that means that attempt will become a success and it becomes disastrous either to individual or to an organization. So what is our knowledge of vulnerability? Okay? In every cybersecurity arrangement, do we normally conduct this risk assessment? There is no organization that will conduct risk assessment. That is the red flag in cybersecurity. That's the most prominent factor in cybersecurity. If you don't conduct risk assessment, then you won't even know what to do, measures to be put in place. Then we'll go into vulnerability assessment, and you now do cost benefit and you do implementation. This should be a must. This paradigm should be a must for every organization. Is our policy in place to make sure that every organization do this as a matter of compulsion? Okay, that's where we're going. Majorly, some of us who are technical, if you look at the information security life cycle, we stop at IT security. It won't work. It will never work because we have not put organization into place. Processes and procedures are not in place, and it has not been developed onto a full-fledged system. That is why we have problems. Not that many people are not, they don't procure these tools, but they stop at IT security. You need a complete information security management life cycle for us to be secure, because it's a continuous thing and it's not a one-stage affair. Okay? How many organizations in this part of the world categorize their assets? Do they even know their digital assets? You must identify your digital asset before you now categorize it. So the concept of asset, vulnerability, threat, risk, let us start from there as professionals, okay? People must know what, within the context of cybersecurity, what does an asset mean? What is the perception of vulnerability? What is vulnerability? And how important is it? What is threat? Okay, how do we conduct risk assessment within the cybersecurity concept? All these are very, very important. And I think that is a level where we should bring this down into our policy, okay? Because it's better driven by the policy, by the national policy and procedure. Because everybody that they do in the accounting, this work will talk about IT audits. Okay, IT audit, cybersecurity should be prominent in IT audit because that's the era we are living, and we are not going to go back to the pre-digital era. And since we have decided to live in this era, definitely we must live up to the challenges. Classification of assets, which one is confidential, which one is not confidential, which one is critical, which one is confidential but not critical. So we have all these. There's a global standard for categorizing assets. Of course, we must identify assets. We must categorize them before we now assess the security of each of these categories to determine the level of investment that we are going to put on them. So I think complete
I've lost you, Prof. We've lost your audio.
In all, information security management as a nation will be able to act. And I think that is, and I don't want to spend much of my time. You can see that I didn't even follow the slide, but I'm going to give this slide to the organizer immediately after this program is sent to you for the attention of the listeners. I want to thank you once again. Thank you and God bless.
Wow, 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 wow. Thank you so much, Prof. Like I said earlier on, if we allow you, professors, to go on, you can just take us throughout the day and all that, but thank you for managing your time. Thank you for that in-depth and insightful presentation, looking at the governance aspect of cybersecurity. It's quite appreciated. And thank you also for the slides I'm going to get from you as well, so that everyone who's on this call will get this slide as well and take time to study it at their own time. So we're coming to the last speaker for today before we go into the Q&A, interactive section of this webinar. It's actually from the public sector. He's NCS Abuja chapter. Mr. John Odumesi is here with us this afternoon, and he's going to be talking to us about malware. Mr. John, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Hello. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Odumesi, and I'm pleased to proceed. Yes, I'm from the public sector, but disclaimer is that all I'm saying here is strictly my view and my position, not the office I'm presently serving. To go ahead, thanks also the executive for the invitation to come and share my view on malware, and I decided to also extend it to malware as a service. So I don't think most of us here that are professionals already know what malware is, but then just to give just a slight intro into it, well, we all know that is a malicious line of code injected in any organizational system, information system, networks to exploit and then taking advantage of the existing vulnerability in such systems.
Lost your video.
And to taking advantage of the vulnerability in such systems. So if we're to look at it also, the malware as a body has also given birth to things like the ransomware, the Trojan, the worms, and the likes, and then the growth of the internet connectivity backed with the digitalization of the financial services has also led to the criminal minds, the cyber criminals, taking advantage of the vulnerability, human vulnerability, not just only in the system, the human vulnerability as well, to create chaos, to create disastrous consequences. And then to look at it, if I were to take example of what was the adversary document that was released by NIDA first, which was on a particular malware that was in the Nigerian cyberspace, which was called the Shark and the Milan malware, which is to infiltrate the Android system and then targeted at specific people through spy phishing. There was also another adversary document that was released by the NGSAT under the Office of the National Security Advisor on the Flowbot. The Flowbot is also targeting Android applications, which is to create an update, a security update through the human vulnerability to be able to get access to this one-time password and then be able to carry out their consequences and then take position of vulnerability on the system. But then if we were to also look at it on the global space, I believe we're all aware of the WannaCry malware that sprang up in 2017, which affected over 150 countries in the whole world. Africa was also hit. Fortunately, we were not hit when it comes to financial loss as compared to the US and the European countries. So that particular malware was also regarded as the first crypto malware. Why? Because the ransom were gotten very crypto. I believe we're also aware of the StockX malware that was targeted as a cyber physical system. I believe we're aware of the Iranian nuclear weapon that it affected. We've seen so many of these malware springing up and coming up with aim of taking advantage of the vulnerability in the system, the human vulnerability as well. And then if you now look at it, the ecosystem of it, we've now seen that we have people who actually sit down specifically as highly skilled malware developer, allied researchers, technical experts, who are those who develop this malware. While we also have the aspect of the vendors. We have those who call vendors who are intermediaries between the developers and the buyers. So they also provide some form of digital services in being able to push this malware out. While the buyers are those who have criminal intents. Even the government, some governments, government buy this malware for whatsoever intent they have in mind for it. So the malware ecosystem will continue to increase because of the amount of money that is involved. As at the last time, I think as at 2013, the Alta release on the financial involvement of a malware economy is in several billions of US dollars. So that's also, it's even a projection. Why? Because most of the financial involvement, the ransomware payment is being done now with crypto. All of this happening in the dark web and then making it difficult to even account for this. But from the payment that is going out and the crypto engagements that is being exchanged, it is being accounted for to be in billions of US dollars. So that alone shows that the economy will keep, the malware economy will keep growing. So what are we supposed to do? There is no perfect defense mechanism. It's just, we just want to keep improving on it. We just want to keep going. And part of it, which I will always suggest, is because if we are facing, since this is the society is targeted more of more involvement of the civil servants or the public sector, I usually like for us to go in a more not technical approach in engaging. Definitely, you must approach the fight against malware or the cyber attacks in general with technology. But then there are some of approaches that are basic education, continuous education, through the use of a strong password, regularly back up your system, educating the users, leveraging on email security, because most of the leveraging of the email security, that is where most of the malwares are being deployed. Also deploying a zero trust security system. So I will want to stop here for now. I hope I'm able to deliver within this short time frame. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. John. I mean, it's, you know, the way the thing has started and we're just flowing, everybody just adding and building on what the other person has, you know, talked about. And I believe that as we're here this afternoon, there's so much knowledge has gone out. Somebody's mic is unmuted. Let me just try and find who the person is. So okay. So there's a lot of information has gone out to us this afternoon, and I believe we have a lot of questions to ask. Please, if you have any question to ask, Mr. Moshola, please, can you just mute your mic? Just mute your mic, please. So if you have any question to ask, please raise up your hand. We're going to call each person. We're going to call everybody in sequence like that. Any question to ask. And if you have a question directed to one of the speakers, so tell us who the question is directed to. But if it's a general question, then all the speakers will try and intervene in that question and give us the response to the question. So please, I'd just like you to just indicate, raise your hand digitally if you have a question. We're going to call you up as we go. All our speakers are still here with us. So they're going to take your questions on cybersecurity or anywhere you're coming in from. So Professor Jimoh is here, Professor Onosoga is here, Larry Macaulay is here, John Dumesi is here, and I think our president is also here as well. So I just like you to raise your hand if you have any question to ask. If you have any question to ask, just raise up your hand, please, so that we can begin to take questions from everybody that is here this afternoon. So can we see our hands? If you have any question to ask.
Hello, Gina Joko. Hello, Mr. Gina Gochuku. Are you hearing me?
We're not raising our hands. Are you saying that we don't have any questions to ask our speakers?
Are you hearing me?
Professors, we can't hear you, Mr. Moshola. You have a question to ask?
I have. Can I speak?
Okay, sorry, before your question. Sorry, before your question, please, can we mute our mics, everybody who is not speaking? Can just mute our mic, please, because it's disturbing the meeting now. Let's just try and mute our mics, please. Anybody who's not speaking, just mute his mic so that it won't disturb the meeting. Mr. Moshola, please go ahead.
I just want to have a comment and appreciate the chief host from the beginning, and also the current president who have been in the session of the NAPICS, have been with me and he stood behind me, he understood me. I believe that if somebody study a boss, is a boss, and he may be better than that boss, I really appreciate him. And Gina Chuku, Gina Gochuku Ifeanyi, you have been behind this me when I was the president. You are still behind with the current first he came, and including the participants and leaders that came for that conference. They really appreciated him. Now I'm appreciating you, Larry Macaulay. I appreciate everybody that stood behind this webinar. That's really, my comment. And also, when we are talking about security, security is a key issue, it's a societal problem now. And according to our Professor Jimoh and Professor Onosoga and Larry Macaulay, who have taught us and opened our eyes in many ways, how we can tackle the security. We really appreciate them, and we should continue. And we should continue to appreciate this, our professor and Larry, and also everybody. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, sir, for that intervention, for that comment. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. The first president of NIPS, we appreciate you, sir. And now the executive secretary of NIPS, we appreciate you, the work you've done for NIPS as well. So right now, please, okay, so you can type your question on the chat box. If you don't want to talk or raise up your hand, type your question on the chat box so that our speakers can take our questions, basically. So we have Professor Onoshoga here, we have Professor Jimoh, we have Larry Macaulay, and we have John Odumesi here in our midst. So maybe myself and my co-moderator will kick off this question and answer session so that the rest can actually basically join into it. I'm going to direct my question to Professor Jimoh. I think he talks a lot about governance, about risk management, about awareness as well, about perception, how perceive information, how perceive vulnerability, how perceive vulnerability assessment and all that. You know, all of that, because it's about the people issue, That's what you're talking about, really. How can we deal with this in public sector in Nigeria? How can we deal with the people issue in public sector in Nigeria?
Thank you so much, Engineer Gochukwu. You know my experience. When you compare what is obtainable here and what is obtainable in the developed nations, you will see that we have not come to terms that we are living in digital era. Policy can drive this conveniently, but you know, awareness will come before policy because people's acceptance of such policy is a function of their awareness. And that is why awareness campaign on the issue of cybersecurity should be a continuous thing. I visited UK sometimes 2018 or 2017 to confirm an admission status of a student who happens to be the daughter of one of my senior professors here. They denied me opportunity until the person emailed them from Nigeria that they should divulge the information to me, giving my passport number and everything. We don't have this culture. It's because of the culture of digital era, which has already been established by the national policy there. So the policy is a function of me and you. Stakeholder, we are major stakeholders. Then government should give us the opportunity to drive this policy. It's beyond what we have on ground. Because either you understand English or you don't understand English. You must be able to live in this area. We should look beyond those who can speak English. Okay? If you go to village,
we lost the audio.
And use the 3 main languages of Nigeria, to all of us will be on the same page. Then when they put a memo to a messenger, because to him or her, he has never committed any offense because he doesn't understand the essence of information and how that information making that information can be disastrous to the organization or to the person or to the individual. So they are at zero level with regards to perception of information. And that's why I'm saying the policy can be driven by government, but all of us here, we are major stakeholders, okay? We keep communicating this until we have this policy. Awareness should go on, while policy drafting should also go on, so that the policy will gain acceptance by the citizens. Thank you.
Drosimi. Okay, Dr. Akishe, I see your hand. Just one second. Drosimi, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. I think before taking Dr. Akishe, Dr. Orunsolu too is raising up his hand. Can we have your comment quickly, Dr. Orunsolu?
Thank you very much, sir. Yeah, I want to commend the organizer of the program and everybody in the house. So my question is trend that we have in Nigeria, the young people reading information online, trying to experiment with negative information. Like, for instance, ritual money and the like, and they are trying to carry it out. So how can we come up with a policy statement that will let us know to what level can these young people access information online? Do we want to put barrier on it, or we just allow them to access anything? Because if now they are experimenting with ritual money, next time they are going to be experimenting with terrorism and the likes like that. So I want to direct it to Professor Jima and Professor Onoshoga. How do we come with a national policy that manage content management in the reality of what we are facing now? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Please, just briefly, our problem in that area is nature of lack of a proper and guided gateways. Okay, if you go to Dubai now, you can't just use even the internet access to do so many things. You have to pay more if you want to use it to do certain things, because they have a control gateways. And you see, this porosity is what people are taking. I think a lot still needs to be done. You see, we don't have this because we don't know what we are losing even as a nation by not having guided gateways so that we can monitor traffic, internet traffic, and what happens there. Of course, we cannot continue this ban because that is the business where the business of today is located. Physical shops are no longer encouraged. Anybody building physical shop now is living in the pre-digital era. So they cannot sustain banning these processes. The government should be able to brace up to make sure that our gateways are controlled so that we'll be on top of every transaction on the web. Thank you.
Professor Onoshoga, your comments.
Okay, thank you, for that question. When you're talking about content management, sure, in this country now, I think there is need for people to be well-oriented. The problem, one of the problems we are having is our leaders, I'm sorry to say, how knowledgeable are they? Because before you can drive a policy, there is need for those in charge of the policy to have an understanding of what it essentially covers, what it means. Okay, if they don't have such knowledge, it is not possible to drive it. A lot has been happening, okay, in terms of information management and the rest, well, which is at least very important for the survival of this digital age. But the people behind the policy, where are they? What knowledge do they have? So the first thing is for those in charge to know who, or for the leaders to know who to put in charge. Okay? It's another thing to accept a policy, it's another thing to even implement the policy. So if they don't embrace this, okay, the understanding, the knowledge, there is no how that policy will be put in place. So that's just what I have. Hello, did you hear me?
Yes, we did.
Hello?
Thank you very much. We heard you. We heard you, Prof. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I'm driving.
Okay. Thank you so much for your response. Dr. Kishe, please, your question. Dr. Kishe. Dr. Kishe, are you here?
Yeah. Hello, are you hearing me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you, Engineer Mosfriend. I really want to appreciate our effort on all these, our webinar, and the vital points that we are discussing. Professor Jima, I say kudo, and I give kudo to our brother too, the second speaker, that's Mr. Udumesi. Thank you. But my concern is that all that we are discussing is still within the scope of we ourselves. How do we get people from MDAs, from federal parastatal, and also on, how do we get them on board? Because the more we capture all those areas, the more what we are discussing will be able to have better expansion. I think this is very, very critical. If it will require us to write them one by one or whatever, introducing this organization to them, I think we need to take a step. Mr. Moshola, I think the ball will be your court on that area as the executive secretary. And all of us need to ensure that we have a larger spectrum of people that will be coming on board of our program, such a wonderful program like this, so that the awareness will be created more and be getting better, so that policy implementation will be easier. So this is my suggestion. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Engineer Gochuku. Just a little addition to that. Actually, we need a town hall meeting, okay? I think the NCS, CPN can also collaborate with NIPES to do that. so that we get all the necessary audience from all major stakeholders, a town hall meeting, because we've been talking to ourselves. Even people that procure cybersecurity tools, they don't put it into actual use because of this lack of awareness. We need a stakeholder meeting that will involve the Office of Security Advisor to the President, okay, NCC, NITDA, and all of that, so that they know even what we are doing at that level, so that we will not continue talking to ourselves, as said by my brother, Dr. Akinseye. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Moshola, you have something to say on this? Mr. Moshola?
Hello? Hello?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Hello?
We can hear you, sir. We can hear you, sir.
Anyway, it's a good suggestion from Dr. Akinseye. What we will do, and
I've lost your audio. Your audio, please. Please try and unmute. Mr. Moshola, you need to unmute. Mr. Moshola, you need to unmute the mic.
Hello, Engineer Ogochukwu. Sorry, can I be permitted to leave now? I left a particular meeting to honor this invitation, and I would like to go back. Please, with your permission.
I hope you don't have any questions for you. Okay, fine.
Maybe I wait for another 2 minutes.
Okay, great. So please, Professor Jima needs to leave. Do you have any question for him? Let's just direct it to him right now, so he can give us the answers to those questions. Anybody? Just go ahead and speak, or just raise up your hand, please, if you have any question for Professor Jima before he leaves. If I don't get any response, okay, somebody, Ibrahim, Oyedele, go ahead. Ibrahim, go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. I would like just to thank Professor Jima for I've listened to you, and I was really happy to be informed. I'm sure you will perhaps later realize who was speaking to you at the moment. I used to be one of your students together with Larry Macaulay. It's good listening to you, to be honest. I was really enjoying my time with you, and I hope to connect you again anyway in another time. I'm speaking to Larry in background. I'll probably reach out to you soon. Thanks so much for your time.
You're welcome. We are equally proud of you. As a proud alumnus of the University of Ilorin, the only Better by Far University. Larry has my contact. Please do collect my contact so that we talk privately. It's good to have you here also.
Thank you, Robert.
All right, thank you, Ibrahim, for that intervention. Prof, I think you might just leave because I don't think any other question is coming for you, so that John and Larry and we'll take the rest questions as well as they come up. So thank you very much, Professor Jima, for being here. Okay, so let us continue. I'm going to send this question to Larry and John. Now, when Larry was speaking, he mentioned a lot of tools that needs to be used by IT professionals. You know, now we're speaking categorically about governments, public sector in Nigeria, basically. Most of the tools you talked about, some of them are free, and some of them are licensed premium versions and all that. So, from your position of where you're sitting, you know, now, and in comparison with where you went in Nigeria, how do you suggest or recommend that IT professionals now, not end users, you know, what approaches do they need to take to begin to have access to these tools, to be able to begin to learn how to mitigate some of these issues from their own local environments, you know, going forward? So this question is for both Larry and Odumes.
So please, engineer, I'm so sorry, I didn't get you clearly, please.
Okay, I was saying that, there are a lot of tools that was mentioned earlier on by Larry. And also, when you were also speaking, when you're talking about the malware and all that, you also mentioned about setting protocols that people need to undertake, basically to ensure that they prevent some of these attacks and all that. I want you to actually elucidate more on that. Then later we'll talk about the issue of the availability of those tools in comparison from where it is in Canada and Nigeria when it was in Nigeria. How does it compare with the availability of those tools, basically? So you can just take that. So everybody who's here, who is interested in those tools and ability to be able to use those tools will have an understanding. So go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you. If I'm to respond to the usage of the open source tools, basically they are not the welcome idea as presented by Mr. Larry, but with the point I'm sitting from or talking from on my little experience where I am presently serving, it will be better to make use of tools that are of user behavior analysis that can take care of the technical and non-technical angle of the information system of the organizational assets. I won't want to mention any tools per se because most of the tools that I'm talking about are off-the-shelf tools. They are tools that are in-house, developed in-house. There are tools that are requested basically for a particular purposes. So if the tools like I'm saying that based on my experience, my advice would be tools that can understand, that can automate user behavior experience, user behavior analysis on organizational system in the presence of any changes to any asset can easily be monitored, and then analytical charges can be prompted up. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Drosimi, any question? Okay, Mr. Mashallah, yes, Mr. Mashallah, go ahead. I think your network is not very good. We can't even hear you. I can't even hear you. Wow, we can't hear you at all. We can't hear you at all. I think your network is not very good now.
I think.
Yeah, go ahead, Joseph, go ahead.
Okay, what I'm saying is that I think, Mr. Omoshola, we can't hear you at all. I think the network is bad. Okay, let's see whether we can still have more question or comment as we are trying to round up with this session of Mr. Moshola, please mute your, okay, Dr. Akishaye. Dr. Akishaye.
My brother, thank you. I just want to bring a suggestion that the presented papers, will it be sent to participants?
Yes, it will. Yes, it will. Once we get it from the speakers, we'll send it to everybody by email. Yeah, to be sent.
Okay, thank you.
I think we need to be doing the recap and the let me say the fallout. Mr. Moshola, can you please mute your device, please? Dr. Akishaye also, please mute yourself. Okay. Gradually, as we are bringing this program to an end, we just have to do some recap. What some of our distinguished speakers, what they have highlighted, what they have mentioned, starting from Mr. Larry Macaulay, all the way from a global cybersecurity risk and digital transformation leader from North America, somebody who has actually chipped in many ideas, what we need to do to prevent ourselves. He has actually released some of those tools that we can use to check whether a particular source code, malicious source code has been plugged into the browser, or whether there is what is called SQL injection, how to prevent ourselves when you see a website that refreshes, every time, what we need to do. He has, done a wonderful work in this area. And just like what Dr. Akishaya has called attention to, we are going to send the presentation to all the participants. That's why we ask people to register for this event. And also from Mr. Larry Macaulay, we have listened to, let me say, a female professor of computer science and information security, that is Professor Adebukola Onoshoga, that she emphasized and reiterated about what phishing is all about. A situation whereby people are masquerading, people are trying to work on your intelligence. She actually mentioned, highlighted series of phishings that we have. People will call and be asking series of questions so that they can actually penetrate into the account. And these are some of the things that she mentioned in that our presentation or our report on the area of phishing attack. And also we listened to a professor that emphasized the need why we have to come up with what is called, do a lot of risk assessments, risk vulnerability issues, what is an asset. He emphasized that, and that's Professor Rashid Jimoh, that there's need for us to come up. There's need for us to do some assessment so that we can actually know who and who that is being affected by this cyber security or cyber attack, so that we can actually move forward and make some recommendation for the so-called authority, be it Ministry of Communication, NITDA, NCS, that's our parent body, also the CPN, Computer Professional Regulation Council of Nigeria. And last but not the least is my brother, my friend, Mr. John Odumesi from NCS Abuja chapter, who emphasized on the area of malware. We all know to be a malicious code that is being attached to as a threat. And he emphasized what we also need to do to prevent ourselves. And these are some of the fallout. We are going to come up with a page communique that we send to all participants. It's going to be like a summary of what people have actually suggested, what we need to do. And also, Dr. Orunsolu raised a very vital question as regards what we need to do, because most especially the area, our area now at the moment, talking about Abeokuta, Ogun State, people have seen so many, when it comes to, let me say, the disadvantage of internet. That is what we are experiencing at the moment in Abeokuta, Ogun State, where many youth are coming up that they are learning bad things on the internet. And that's why Dr. Orunsolu is calling up our attention to come up with a framework that we can present to the so-called authorities so that we can see that instead of looking at the bad, the ugly of the internet, the concentration should be on the good. I think these are some of the things that we have actually enjoyed. We have to be, bringing this program to an end, essentially because of our Muslim brothers and sisters, so that they can go and pray by 4 o'clock. I think, Engineer Gochuku, do you still have anything to chip in so that we can bring this program to an end?
Well, just to wrap up, I just wanted Mr. Larry and Odumesi to just give us 2 minutes, their last words, 2 minutes, and we'll just wrap up from there. 2 minutes. Mr. John, your last word.
Thank you, sir. All I would say to add to it is that either malware, either phishing attack, or any form of cybersecurity attack, we should all know that one, there's no perfect defense against any form of cybersecurity attacks. What we need to do is to develop and implement an incident response at all layers of network assets or government network. And then in the position of not being able to carry out an in-house response or to be able to curtail the attack. The NGSAT is there to assist any organization, even individuals that have any challenges as it relates to cybersecurity attack. Just go to the NGSAT website. It's included in this in the presentation that I will be sending across, so the participant can get that information as well. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Larry. Your 2 minutes, your last word. Just 2 minutes, your last word.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, everyone, for joining this session. Definitely. I mean, for me, cybersecurity is not about talk, right? As I said before, it's doing, right? Hopefully, I'll be able to come back in a subsequent webinar and we can get our own dirty together, right? To see how we can sort of mitigate and prevent. I share some tools on the charts. Hopefully, when I have time, please try your hands out on some of those tools. Cybersecurity is a moving target, right? And so it means that new technologies are coming up, new vulnerability are showing faces and all that. So hackers are not sleeping. So you can be sleeping with your devices as well, right? So from cryptocurrency to IoT, different technologies are coming out. And for me, because I have I'm working a lot of, countries security, right? I don't want to say more than that, right? But I work with a lot of security agency, right? Both UK and US. And I can tell what cybersecurity landscape looks like, right? So please, I will say this, ensure your gadgets, your laptops, you have basic tools to provide the kind of protection that you required, right? And likely you can reach out to me anytime you have any concerns as regards to cybersecurity. Perhaps I could provide some nudge or guidance on the way you can go about it. Sure, I'll be back, right? Because NCS, NIPTS is actually my home. So next time you call me, definitely we'll be able to do something together. So thank you so much, everyone.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Larry. Well, all participants that are here this afternoon, I can assure you that in a few months from now, we're going to call you again for a practical hands-on cybersecurity session. So you're going to come with your laptops online and do practicals. Like I said, it's a do thing. We're going to, solve our hands with all of that in a couple of weeks. We're going to call you again. So just, take the word to town and tell everybody that, it's a public society profession that something big is about to happen when it comes to cybersecurity in the public sector. We're going to call you again to be able to, practically learn how to do these things yourself and help your organizations within the public sector. So once again, thank you, Mr. Larry. Thank you, Mr. John. We appreciate you guys being here. Just to wrap up, Mr. President, vote of thanks, Mr. President.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
I'm really grateful for all the participants that has contributed today. It shall be well with you in all your endeavors. I believe we have gained tremendous knowledge in today's webinar. In the subsequent ones, I believe you will all join us. Thanks for coming. Remain blessed ever. Thank you all. Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. It's been a wonderful time, and we'll see you again soon. For another session will be so insightful for each one of us. Thank you, and God bless you all. If it's good to see your faces, can we just show our videos, please? Let's see our videos. Let's see our faces. Let's see our faces. It's good to see our faces. Let's see our faces, please. Everybody. Ibrahim, Mba, Caroline, my president, Austin Taiwo, Richard, Dr. Abdul, Rosemary, Aboshede. Let's see our faces, please. Let's see our faces. Let's see our faces. Let's see our faces. The beautiful and handsome faces. Let's see our faces.
Thank you, sir.
God bless you. God bless you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. You're welcome, sir.
All right. So have a lovely evening and have a lovely weekend. God bless you all. And thank you. And see you,
sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.